Sonic Talk.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 610, recorded live on Wednesday the 11th of March 2020. Spring, hasn't quite sprung, but it's getting there. There's a cherry tree at the back, or is it an apple tree? I can't tell, but it's in blossom. You can see out the window. Well, you can't see it, I can see it. So I always can tell when spring's around because whenever the window's open. And as a result, I've gone for a sort of daylight vibe today because I felt it was a little bit more cheery given the nature of all the crap that's going on around us. But we're not really a weather podcast. We're talking about music production, electronic music, live music, musical instruments, synthesizers, production, software, the things that surround the technology that allow the human race to make recorded music and perform music. That's kind of what we're about. I want to say thank you very much to our friends over at iZotope. iZotope will be giving a prize away of the fabulous iZotope Ozone 9, which is a brilliant mixing and mastering plugin, which will help you get the best out of your masters. More on that a little bit later. But right now, I think we should probably say, we'll say hello to our friends over at the IRC. Hello there. And some of our friends over at YouTube. I will point out, actually, before I go to our guests, if you're wondering why there's not so many people watching live, it's because YouTube's interface has changed a little bit, and I didn't set it to be a live broadcast. I set it to be unlisted, which is what I always used to do, but it still sent out notifications, and now it doesn't anymore. But now I know I won't do it again. So it's a small but select club. There's still plenty of people here. Anyway, we'll say hello. We got Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves there in his studio in London, which is looking extremely, it's looking great, actually. It looks very welcoming and somewhere I would like to work. I can see you've got your grandmother in the room with you there. And,
yes.
And a few other things besides.
I do. And I've got everything on because I'm about to go through and create a sample collection of musical phrases done on all of those. So I'm going to start that tonight as soon as I finish this.
Have you got the musical phrases preordained, or are you just going to see what comes out?
We'll see what comes out. I'm going to print everything onto my... Hold on, let's see if I can reach it. I can, yes. I'm going to print everything onto this.
Oh, wow. High fidelity.
And with DBX, and then pull the DBX out and see what happens. And things like that, So I'm going to take, there's a bunch of, I've got a huge sample library also. So, for like the K2000 and so forth. So I'm going to transfer a lot of that stuff. It's all proprietary. I'm going to transfer a lot of it onto tape, see what it sounds like, and if it's good, I'll put it out. If it isn't, I'll use it. I
suppose the thing is, musical...
Whoops. I think I just lost you.
There we go, because I pressed the wrong button. Musical phrases, before you had to sort of say it's in this key, this tempo, that doesn't matter anymore, does it? You just kind of whack it on the timeline and the DAW will kind of deal with it, pretty much.
Yeah.
What do you want to have happen to this? Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of stuff with Studio One these days, and Studio One is just for just making things just work in time and in key. It's great. It's really great. I'm a big fan. So I'll just
broke at the space-time continuum. We can do just whatever we like, whenever we want.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, lovely to have you, Charles. And also we have Mr. Steve Hillier. He hasn't been around for ages, and now we can't get rid of him. Not that we're trying to, of course.
Like a virus. Sorry, I just lost the internet connection here. Maybe Brighton's gone down, but so I missed whatever was being said just then. But I'm back on 4G, and it seems to be working all right.
It does. You're a little bit fuzzy, but we've got you. That's the main thing. It's better than nothing.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. And of course, Steve, producer, educator, songwriter, and all of those things. What are you currently doing? You've got. I can see that the lights aren't on all of your keyboards.
No, today hasn't been a music day. Just before we finished. Just before I came on air to this, I've just finished quite a large project, which is a new website that hopefully will be going live next week. Can't really give any details until it goes live, but it's something that I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 months. It's essentially to do with songwriting. But it's mainly text as opposed to video and graphics and that kind of thing. It's more of a read than it is a watch, which is something that I've wanted to do for quite a while, because there's plenty of stuff out on the web now that is video based, and that's all great. But there are certain circumstances when it's nice just to read something. So I've got 38,000 spell checked and edited words that will go online hopefully next week.
Oh wow,
which sounds
that's
like
awesome.
quite a lot.
It does. Well, have you seen? There's I think it's Gear News. They post at the top of every page. It tells how long it's likely to take you to read, so you've got an idea of how many words you're getting into. Maybe leave that off yours.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do that. I've maybe put up something that just says, well, I'm going to read this. It's okay. I won't take it personally. But no, it should be up at the end of next week. Of course, something that I know that we're going to be talking about shortly is it sensible really to launch anything at the moment when the news wires are full of something completely different and probably more important, quite frankly. So I may put it back a little bit.
That I can totally. I mean, this is we once again we have another elephant in the room. After last week's elephant seemed to generate an enormous amount of conflicting opinion, shall we say? I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go there again. This week, obviously, we have to mention the spread of the coronavirus. It's beginning to affect a lot of people's kind of plans for the summer or for the spring. I mean, we had at the beginning of the week we had Music Messer cancel. Or postpone as an undisclosed date. And yesterday, or late last night, there was Synthplex, which was due to happen 22nd of March. 26th to 29th of March, has now postponed until October. So those are two fairly low. I mean, we don't go to Music Messer anymore, but Music Messer used to be the biggest event in the calendar outside of NAMM, and probably bigger than NAMM in its heyday. So those are two fairly major things. Obviously, Italy's closed effectively, but this is going to affect. I mean, it's going to affect an enormous amount of things, I feel, and our change, the change of which, or the way that which we subconsciously sort of feel about maybe going to a gig or going to where there are lots of people around, is going to take a little bit of time to build the trust that we're going to come away without some sort of illness. I mean, I agree. I am slightly reticent to talk about this because I know that the media is kind of hyping it so much. It's like Stormageddon, isn't it? When you have in the East Coast snowstorms coming in America, and it's just like the whole world is going to stop. We're not going to be able to feed ourselves. It's going to dry, and then it turns out actually it was fine. It was just a light sprinkling of snow. I think the truth is probably somewhere between worst case and best case scenario in all of these cases. So I'd like to get that out there. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how we develop as a species, because I think our behaviour is likely to change. And I mean, Charles, coming to you first. I mean, you're primarily a big part of what you do is live gigs and tours, and you've presumably got a whole summer of them lined up, right?
I do. In fact, I'm supposed to go on tour starting like the 9th of April, so less than a month away.
Yeah.
Well, we do rehearsals, and then we're doing. There's no change so far on the tour, but I gotta say I am concerned. And then the big festival stuff starts for me in mid-May. So in May, I'm. That's not that far away. That's 2 months away, and the news media is saying, or I should even say the government is saying that we've got about 2 months before we can sort of have a bit of a handle on this. So yeah, I'm very concerned. South by Southwest canceled. That was a big red flag.
Yeah, that's true. That went as well. Yeah, South by Southwest.
And I haven't checked the news because I've been teaching all morning. I haven't checked the news yet. But is something happening with Coachella? Have you heard about that?
I saw something about that. Yeah, there's a ton. I mean, I think as Lady Altitude says in the chat room, I mean, statistically, it's not as big an issue as sort of some of the things that happen regularly into the human race, which is colds, flu, whatever. But the thing is, it's a confidence issue now, because now the economics of it come into play and the way that it all works. Steve, you wanted to come in there as well. Sorry.
Well, yes. I mean, I was just going to add something to what you just said, Nick, about it being a confidence thing. Because at the moment, the data that we have about the virulence of the coronavirus, it looks bad, but it's maybe not even as bad as SARS was predicted to be. And although coronavirus is a variation of SARS, but there was something I wanted to mention, seeing as you brought up South by Southwest. There's I just wanted to mention a little bit of the story for a friend of mine, a woman called Helen, who has an act called Dog in the Snow. They're signed to Bella Union, and she was going out to South by Southwest and only discovered on the media that the festival had been cancelled. So that was a bit of a blow. But it was the knock-on effect of South by Southwest, which was really very disappointing for her, because she wasn't just going to get on a plane from Gatwick to Austin and do that show and then come back. There was a whole load of other activity that was arranged in the US, including going to another festival that was happening in New York City called New Colossus, I think it's called. The issue for her was to get as a British citizen, to get the visa to go and play in the US at all. It was pretty straightforward to get it through playing at South by Southwest. So she was able to achieve a B visa. But once everybody knew that South by Southwest wasn't going to happen, there was a big question mark on whether she was going to be let into the country at all to go and do all the other things that to do all the other things that were still going on. So the turbulence that this has caused for her and other musicians who are in the same boat is really quite enormous. And at the moment, it seems like that the biggest effect of the coronavirus, at least in this part of the world, has been on people's wealth rather than their health, if you know what I mean. So now that trip was completely disrupted. There was a hit financially for her. The gigs weren't played. The meetings weren't had. So what happens next? That money's got to be recovered in some way. And what about those business connections that weren't made? What about, just the knock-on effect of not having had that trip? It's really unquantifiable at the moment.
It's difficult. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to discuss this without kind of engaging in the sort of the projection and the potential of what's happening. I mean, I think, as we see, things change so rapidly day by day. I think, we're not, we don't know. The next big show is Super Booth. I don't know whether or not that's going. I can't comment on that. I mean, I really hope so. But then again, I don't really want to get on an aeroplane. I don't mind being in Berlin, but being in a kind of closed tube is the thing that I'm not so comfortable with, just purely because there's nothing I could do. If somebody is ill on that, it's very likely I might get it. And I'm sure I'd be okay. I mean, it's not very nice, but I don't really want to be quarantined somewhere I'm not unfamiliar with for 2 weeks, particularly either. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that affects the confidence as well. So
I think that's absolutely right, Nick, and that actually is the biggest consideration of all. At the moment, at least, it's that you might end up in a different part of the world and then be quarantined. So what do you do? And at that point, can you afford to stay in a hotel? Do you sleep on the streets? Do you sleep at the airport? What about if you're traveling with young children? Or what about if you're traveling with a band and you're the person who's paying for the band, and they were scheduled to be paid for 3 days, and now it looks like they're going to be out of action for 2 weeks or whatever. It's a really a huge hit for confidence. One thing, luckily, the virus hasn't affected my work at all yet. The gigs that I had over the last few weeks have all gone on, and nothing's looking like it's going to be cancelled yet. However, the meetings that were planned for this week in London and from here on, they have been cancelled. And it seems like the biggest issue is with the bigger companies in central London. They're not doing external meetings anymore. They basically closed that down. And that's a consideration for the foreseeable future. There's no actual stipulated end to this. It's like a sort of self-imposed quarantine, a self-isolation, but on a corporate level. That's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Well, on a positive note, what we're doing here is entirely continuable. The fact that we communicate and we regularly use new technology to move things around, the fact that we're putting stuff on YouTube so people can consume it if they decide to stay in, or they're whatever it may be. I think in some ways, what we may well see is the adoption of technology by people who haven't actually maybe used it so much, because they're going, oh, I didn't realize you could do this, and I've tried it for the first time, and actually this is kind of cool. Maybe we'll see a lot more kind of online collaborations. Maybe we'll see a lot more kind of things. Maybe we'll see some events that are happening in an online space rather than a physical space, or happenings, or whatever you want to call them. I mean, I don't know what, concentrations of like-minded people. So there could be a really positive thing, and it might actually kind of, in a way, create lots more communities as a result. And so I'm trying to think of the positive side of it. I don't want to dwell too much on the kind of bleak outlook, because we can only, like I say, really kind of project. And if like me, you're kind of probably a bit concerned, you've got family or whatever, it's hard to see a positive outside of any of that stuff. I know, Charles, I don't know if you wanted to come back in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, the wisest words my father ever told me is, this too shall pass. The good and the bad, it all passes. So yeah, it may seem kind of bleak, but it will pass. It is kind of going to suck for a while, because it is confidence. I mean, the Western economies certainly are, for better or worse, are built on confidence. A lot of recessions are caused by not because of any real thing other than people just losing confidence, and suddenly everything goes pear-shaped. So the same thing's happening in the music industry. It's just because people are going to be scared to go to a show, and we've weathered it.
And also, if there is an alternative, let's explore those. Let's do that instead for a bit. And maybe it'll change things. And so I'm kind of confident that it might bring the whole of society into the technological advancements that some of the more early adopters have perhaps been enjoying for a while. So that could be a positive thing. Anyway, like I say, I don't want to kind of go on about it, because it does feel a little, not scammer, but contributing to the hype. And I was trying to, I'm not going to, pretend that I'm any kind of medical expert or make any kind of advice. Do what you got to do and stay safe and all of those things. But I think the kind of societal aspects are going to be quite interesting for a while. So let's move on. Is that all right? Everybody said their piece. I didn't want to kind of dwell on it for too long. But again, it's the another elephant in the room that has to be dealt with. I think that's just it's affecting stuff that we do.
It's better than last week's elephant.
Yes, I think so too. It's a circumstantial rather than So let's get on to let's have a look at this chap. This is the new Intellijel 1U multi-effects module. Which is on the top left there. I can't turn it down. I don't know what's happening. God, it's really loud. That's much louder. I thought I had a fader for that. This is quite interesting actually, because it's a tiny little thing, and it's uses this new sort of 1U format, which is like a strip that goes either above or below or in between the regular 3U sort of Eurorack slots, and it's a really interesting idea. Intellijel are really pushing this. They make a lot of modules for that format, and they also make cases for that format, which are kind of cool. And this is the multi-effects one, which has reverb, delay, and chorus, I think, with a clockable input, so you can actually sync it to some stuff. And it's like $129. It's pretty cheap, I would say. It seems cheap. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the video. The reverb sounded really good, and it seemed like a really nice thing. But also the fact that they're sort of pushing the Eurorack format, which has been so much the same thing for such a long time. I'm talking about the space it fits in. And I don't know. I've got some Intellijel stuff. I think I reviewed the gosh, I can't remember what it was called now, but I really enjoy that stuff. Steve, I'll come to you first, because you've got a rack of stuff behind you. I mean, I don't know if you've got any Eurorack in your life, but there's sort of, you have cables and patching and 3.5mm jack, so it's close enough.
This is it's a Roland System 100M.
Yes,
that,
lucky
I've
you.
had for a while, which is it's just a lovely thing. And I think I had it set up like this last time I was on the show. This is plugged into a Behringer Neutron, and combine the two together and you can, demolish buildings with it. It's such a big sounding thing.
Do they all use 3340 VCO chips? Because the System 100M is 3340s, I think, and the Neutron is 3340s, and they do sound lovely, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, they do sound really good. Yeah, I have quite a lot of rack stuff as opposed to Eurorack stuff. So the thing that I like most about this unit was the return to items straight into a rack. You know what I mean? Where Eurorack, it's all fine once you've got it set up, but can be a little bit fiddly, especially if you're moving stuff around. But I do quite a lot of shows, basically, and it's so handy if you can just take an effects unit and stick it into a flight case with a rack inside it, pick it up, Bob's your uncle, and then it's really easy to transport around. Plus, also, I think it looks kind of cool. It reminds me a little bit of when I was a kid. I'd go and see bands. This is in the 80s. Go and see bands play, and you'd have a guitarist. It's not standing in front of an amp, but standing in front of what looked like a studio rack of effects.
I know that.
Yeah, which was just kind of cool. So I really like that. And it reminded me from the 80s, there was a series of effects that Boss brought out called, I think, just the mini rack series. Ooh. And they were similar size. They were like 1U. You can get a tray, you can stack them next to each other in a very similar way to this one. They sounded great. They were about the same kind of price, although, 100 quid was a lot more in the 80s than it is now. So I enjoy this. There's one, this shape of this thing, but there's one other thing I want to throw in, which is for someone like me who does most of his work in the box, so to speak, there seems to be something about an external chorus unit that I particularly really love. I mean, there's some great software choruses, but nothing really that comes as close to sounding good as this, which is something I've got out the rack to show everybody.
Oh, yeah.
This is, as you can see that. It's a Boss Dimension C pedal that I got in 1987 with my pocket money. Yeah, and I think that Boss is
very good condition now. You haven't even chipped the paint off the corners.
Well, I kind of thought that if I could, just plug my guitar or synthesizer into this, it could give me instantly the sound of the Cocteau Twins, which was a really big deal to me when I was 16. So I've kept it very pristine. But it's a gorgeous thing. And I think the Boss have recently brought out a new version of this, having not had it on the market for a very long time. And I would just recommend to everybody, just get a listen to this if you possibly can. It's a gorgeous thing, and also completely analog as well.
No, neat. It's interesting, isn't it? I think there's because a number of people are making Eurorack versions of effects pedals, specifically Earthquaker. In fact, Ed did a review of the Earthquaker. I've forgotten what it was called now, but it underneath, and it sounded bloody great. But that started life as a pedal, and I think there might be life in, because the guitar pedal market. I mean, while it's still buoyant, I'm sure it could do with a new audience, and perhaps if they just stick them all in Euroracks, then we'd be golden for a lot of people. Yeah. There was a bit of there are people who do that, don't they? They convert from one to the other and stick them in Euroracks and just put the knobs on the front and change the case. I guess you'd have to change the power supply. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people who mix live and in the studio, and they have like a guitar effects board. It's just all those mini pedals and stuff like that, and they just use that as their effects rack. Because especially with things like Big Sky, obviously, they'll use a lot of that stuff. Any of the Strymon pedals. But I mean, not to get too far away from the subject that we're supposed to be talking about, which is the Intellijel thing. I would love something like that. That'd be great, live and in the studio. I want to take, I want to be able to take, my Big Sky and my Memory Man and stuff like that with me live, but it's all a little bit too big. My Memory Man Deluxe is just, it's a big unit, 24 volt supply. Who needs why 24 volts? Whatever. I'm sure there's someone out there who's going to correct me, but so it's hard to get supply. I'd love to have something like this. Just put it in a rack. That'd be great. I actually have like 3 or 4 of them. honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that looks kind of cool. Where is it? I've got it here. Yeah, they've got the web page here because it's a tiny little thing. It's only got one blinky light, which I think is a big mistake. I think they should have put a couple more on there just for the just for this cosmetic appeal. But the other thing that's kind of interesting is the these cases. The performance cases, which have got the sort of one new stuff. So Intellijel do these. These look. I really like this kind of new idea as well. I know Make Noise do one that's in the middle, but it's designed for a sort of CV bus. I don't think it's quite the same thing. But I really like the fact that they're forging ahead with this kind of thing. Obviously, you can put it up, I guess, whichever way you want, depending on where you put the handle. But it seems to make sense on the top. This idea that you've got all. I think there a couple of pictures of this
like
going on.
Having a case with these in there, and then having some of the Eventide modules, like is it Cinciani or I can't remember who it was. Who's the big Buchla player? Suzanne Ciani, right?
Suzanne Ciani, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think she has some Eventide, the new what's that pedal, the H900 or gosh, I'm drawing a blank today, but whatever their little pedal is.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so they made her some Eurorack versions, and she uses like 2 of those. So having like 2 of those, having like 3 of these things.
I'm sensing, Chicky, that this could be a gateway for you. Eurorack as an effects rack.
Exactly. Because
you want to be careful there.
I'm not really into modular synths, but I do like the form factor of it. I just don't like non-recallable sounds, and I don't like patch. I mean, I had my grandmother and my Matrix Brute, and there's a couple of things over there that I can plug cables into, but I don't ever do it because I just think it's such a faff, you know. I'm just gonna use make presets and save those. You know, I love physical keyboards, and I love everything in the box. In the same way, I mean, not just in the box as in on the computer, but everything in the box as in a synth. So I like that. I like that feeling, you know, knowing I can just pick up this one thing, albeit heavy, and walk away with it, and it's got the sound I want. But having that as like an effects rack like that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I was going to post something. Sorry, Steve, you want to come in because I'll mention that. In a second.
Well, no, actually, I was just going to build on what Charles was saying there. But if there are any instrument or effects unit manufacturers listening to this, I just like to appeal to them. Can we just have more synths and more effects that fit into a regular 19-inch U rack? Do you know what I mean? Maybe just rewinding by 10 years. It would just make my life so much easier. I could just stick it into one of my flight cases, do the screws, maybe put the power supply in a little separate box, walk off, and then I can get on any train and any plane maybe one day soon. And that's it. And it would be just so much easier, and you'll get my money.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, it's desktop. Desktop has become the thing because, you know, everybody's occasional users. They're not necessarily require kind of industrial scale racking of their habit or their profession. I suppose that's where the market kind of lies a little bit. I kind of get where you're coming from. I definitely get free from it. I was going to bring up just quickly because there was we shot this thing at Synthfest, and I've got one of these coming actually. For some reason my volume isn't working, and I don't know why. Should be. Shh. Oh, this has got loads of ads on it.
Previously, because we filmed.
So this is the Kork Nutekt, which I've got coming next week.
So those are the same that are in the XD?
Absolutely. And the modulation effects. So you've got 3 stackable effects.
Because the XD effects are peachy, I have to say.
So, Korg NTS1. We may have spoken about this. I can't remember. My memory sort of failed me because it was a while back. But the little Korg NTS Nutekt NTS, which has got a digital synth in it, but the thing that's really interesting is this $99. 99 quid, but it's got the 3 effects units from the Minilog XD, and the effects on the XD are really, really good. So I'm going to try and incorporate that into some content for all you folks who are going to be sitting at home twiddling your thumbs. But that's another great bit of effects, and that's another potential thing. Although, again, Steve, it doesn't really fit into either your rack or into 19-inch rack in terms of it's just...
No.
Yep, you need to Velcro it onto the lid of your 19-inch rack, maybe. That would be the way to incorporate that, possibly.
I did notice, actually, just looking at this before we came on air, it's self-assembly. But they make a really good big point of it doesn't require soldering, and that's a godsend. You know, I mean, it's
They
a really
snap
nice
together,
thing to
I
put.
think, yeah.
But that's right. Like it's better to put it together than a piece of Lego, I suppose. Because I remember when I had a soldering iron. In fact, I've been banned from having a soldering iron in this house just because.
Do you keep leaving it on the
hand,
kitchen table and stuff?
You should see our carpets. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and as a kid, I've got scars on my hands from pulling apart stuff as a kid. When I was a kid, I mean, the stories I could tell, but won't. So just seeing the fact that it's self-assembly, but no soldering, and it's what I think it's coming in at just over £100. I think it is.
It makes me wonder. I wonder.
Good.
Yeah, I wonder how much gets saved in not having it be snapped together by somebody in the factory and stuck in a box, because it still has to be stuck in a box. It's only. I wonder how much money actually, or whether it's more of a sort of conceptual thing that it's do it yourself kind of. Don't know. Interesting, because there's always an opportunity to get it wrong and break it.
This sounds like it might be a replacement for my Chaos Pad. You know, if I can have some decent sort of analog-y sounding delays and stuff like that, because I use a Chaos Pad a lot. I have the Chaos Pad 3, and it's definitely on its last legs.
The thing that's it's really good for is massive ambient modulated reverbs. It's really good at those.
I'd love that kind of thing. That's my favorite sound. Like, I mean, I like almost anything modulated, including the source. You know, everything through a slight tape wobble. Love it. But
perfect.
But I love delays like that. That's why I like Valhalla Shimmer so much, because it's just beautiful modulation reverb. Oh, so gorgeous. But now I spot it on everything I listen to. Yeah,
well, that's right. I think was it me that introduced you to that one by putting it on my mixes?
It was.
I do beg your pardon.
It's okay. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's. I use it live. It's great.
Excellent. Well, I think we should probably now take a moment just to run the competition from our friends over at iZotope. So take a drink of tea and do what you need to do.
Building on a 17-year legacy in audio mastering, Ozone 9 brings balance to your mix with never-before-seen processing for low-end, real-time instrument separation, and lightning-fast workflows powered by machine learning. Expect lower CPU usage and shorter startup times with Ozone 9 compared to Ozone 8. Experience fluid metering in a fully resizable environment that lets you track the most subtle details of your audio. Use more plugins at once, mix while you master without worrying about slowdowns or dropouts. And immerse yourself in a smooth, modern experience designed to keep you in your creative flow. As you can see, Ozone 9 is the fastest way to get your master off the ground. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and head to iZotope.com to learn more about mixing and mastering and to download your free trial of Ozone 9.
Indeed you can. We thank them for providing the prize for this week's show. In fact, we have, well, here it is. If you want to win a copy of Ozone 9 Advanced, that's the advanced version, so it's quite the swankiest you can buy from them. We're looking for the hashtag mix and master as one word, and the hashtag Ozone 9, the number 9, to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. It's basically a Twitter competition, so the hashtag mix and master as one word, the hashtag Ozone 9, number 9, to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And if you tweet that business, you will be entered into the competition and picked by the random supercomputer process that I have designed. So we also have a winner for last week, because last week we ran, they were giving away a copy as well. So we have somebody called Laxt, Laxt, @Laxt Official. And so if you want to get in touch, Laxt Official, @Laxt Official, you are the recipient of the prize of iZotope Ozone 9 Advanced from episode 609, which was last week. So what do we have next? Where have we got to? We got to that. We got the new tech. We did that one. Here we go.
In music, we talk so much about beat making that the term has come to mean the entire process of producing an instrumental backing track, with bass lines, chords, and maybe even vocal hooks or chopped samples. But at the core of beat making is still the beat, the drums. Programming drum beats is often square one in making a beat, and if you're just getting started, it can even be
let's get on to the meat and potatoes. So this is essentially,
but even the simple act of loading a different kit alters our beats feel.
Which is a really interesting idea.
But let's dive into BeatMap itself to see what's going on and how we can start exploring ourselves. BeatMap
visually
is
that you
what is
can lock onto
generating our
each
rhythmic pattern.
of the
Actually,
voices that
4
maybe
rhythmic
plug to your
patterns, to be
Kong or your
precise.
other voice.
There are 4 channels on BeatMap's
source.
front panel for kick drums, snare
And it'll just come up with
drums,
variants. And it just seems like they're using sort of AI and a kind of visual process. The idea you could, if you like the kick pattern but not the rest, you drop a pin in and then you move the map around and maybe you find a hi-hat pattern in that. And it's a really interesting visual paradigm, a way of controlling sort of what is under the hood, some AI stuff, algorithms. And one of the things that came up, according to a recent report by Technavio, this is in their own blurb, so I mean, you have to take it with a slight pinch of marketing salt. Leading technology and research advisory company, the global music and production software market is estimated to grow by 9% annually, with the use of AI and automation a key trend in the music production process. So, I mean, although Reason is a very specific thing, and you can only get this in the standard version of Reason, you can't get it in the Reason Lite, which would be a real shame, because I think they'd sell a lot of Reason Lights just to get hold of this, whereas 300 quid just to get hold of this might just be a bit of a stretch for some people. Available in Reason 9. I know, Charles, when I sent the topics out, you said, oh, I have something to say on this, and I know because Yoad said, I really rate it. I've got loads to say on it as well. So it's obviously struck a bit of a chord. So thumbs up from you then, right?
2 thumbs up, in fact. I love it. I just got it last week and a half ago, whenever, like, I think it only came out a couple weeks ago. And I had Reason when it was 2.5, and I kind of stopped updating it after 4. And then I updated again when it went to 9, because I had a bunch of old sample libraries that I didn't want to lose access to. And then when I saw this BeatMap thing, I did the upgrade to 11. And I love this. So there's that, and there's the MIDI out is the other thing that's quite amazing with that. So you can use BeatMap to trigger external devices and everything. I mean, it works great.
Just pipe it out to external MIDI, right? Okay, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. It works fantastically. And one of the things I like about it is, okay, so I downloaded a few weeks ago. I downloaded Captain Beat, which I think is great. Captain Beat, Captain Chords, and Captain Melody, I think, is the other one that I got like a package deal. And it's great because if you have a song that you're working on and you just want like a quick beat, boom, it's there. But I used to like agonize over drum beats. I would go, okay, I gotta get this beginning of a song. I gotta get it right, and so I want the groove to be just right. I spend a couple of days
and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally, yeah.
It was consuming. And then I remember I was listening to a lot of the music that I generally like, and the beats with it, and most of it, you know what, the beats are neither here nor there. I mean, they're just there to, and I don't think people care that much about, did you use a 909 with a little bit of extra grit or a little less grit, like all that kind of stuff. And so I know BeatMap doesn't do sounds, it's a player, but just all the minutia I was agonizing over about drums.
If you remove some of it, then it gives you time to think about whether you want to use that extra grit on the 909 for the dance floor effect.
Exactly. And this thing working on algorithms is great. So it's not like a random generator; it's actually working on algorithms. And I've used it on probably 3 different client tracks now, and the results have been fantastic. It's great, and I can do little variations here and there, track it into just MIDI and go through and edit something specific if it is really nagging at me. But I have yet to. I mean, I have tracked stuff in, but I didn't end up changing anything.
So how do you do builds and kind of the complexity growing? Do you automate those parameters, or would you then just print and then cut between the versions?
No, I don't. I just write in the automation that you'll dial in the density of it. Like say for instance on the kick drum. I mean, I don't change the density of that too much, but maybe at the end of the phrase I would. But the snare, the hi-hat, and the percussion track, just draw on density. When it goes back to a verse, it goes back down a bit more, and then slowly build up in the middle eight. Talking about standard pop song arrangements. But yeah, it works great. I am resold on how that sounds almost like a pun. I'm resold on Reason. I like Reason. I think it's great, and has always been my sort of go-to for in the box sort of synthesis and drums and stuff like that. But wow, this is great. I love this thing. Ableton has done some things kind of like that, but nothing this good. This is really good, and I think it's a worthwhile update. I don't know how much it is. What is it, like $5.99 to buy the full version?
Well, it's about 300 quid. 309 quid gets you the standard, which has this in it, which has which has this functionality. But it's the cheapest version you can buy. BeatMap it comes in at the standard, which is 309 to buy outright. I mean, I guess there are going to be loads of upgrades, depending on where you are.
I don't think the upgrade was that expensive. I think it was. This really sounds kind of music business that leads to me, but I don't actually remember how much it was. I just did it. I think it's like it was 150 pounds.
But from the functionality you're getting, you're rocking.
Yeah, and I always go for full versions of things just because if a client is bringing in a file and I don't want to have a lower version than what they have. I mean, because they're paying me, so that money has to become kind of apparent somewhere. So I've got the full version of it, and I do love it, and the fact that I can access my old sample library is really nice too. But yeah, it's great, and the Kong drum machine, it's solid. I like that Oomph drum machine, which is more for dance. I mean, I do electronic music, but I don't do dance electronic, and the Oomph is more for electronic music, danceable electronic music. But the sounds in that are great, and I think it's worth. I think the BeatMap is great, and the MIDI out is great, but the overall update is worth it to me.
Interesting. I don't know, Steve, whether you're a Reason user, but I mean, as a songwriter and also a producer and also a DJ, where the kind of the beat is king in a lot of ways. I mean, you need to have that, but you also need the other aspects that will kind of fill a floor or kind of get the audience on their feet or whatever it may be. Does it? I mean, you must be, like me, have spent many hours, if not years, of your life editing hi-hats in the past.
Yes. Editing drum takes from a drum kit, it's just anything not to have to do that. But it's funny you mention that, Nick, because that was something that this new software facility reminded me of a production thing that I've done for a very long time. Started around the early noughties. We've all done it, I think. So in the mid to late 90s, when Pro Tools became the Pro Tools that we kind of know and love now, you had the ability to record a drummer and to then essentially edit it so it was in time or manipulate it in some way, in a way that wasn't. Yeah, that's right. So in a way that wasn't really available before. So there was a lot of players who were against that, the occasional listener, but mainly musicians who didn't like this idea of manipulating live playing in this way. And so there was a bit of a backlash against that, but now, we've all kind of used to it. It made me think about something on the web page. There's two videos on the web page for this facility. There's the first one that just demonstrates what you can do with the software, but there's the second one where you've got two guys who are putting together what sounds like probably some kind of hip-hop tune. And the guy who is sort of taking over the production takes what his mate has done in this AI Reason drum part that he's put together. And he says something really important. He says, I can take this and I can turn this into something that's more like a song. And it made me realize this is just the modern version of the old production style where we'd manipulate live playing and turn that into the thing that we wanted. Now, what we can do is manipulate computer generated playing that it's been designed to our specifications and turn it into something new ourselves. But the key thing is we're not we don't have to stick with what the AI has given us. It's just a starting point for our own musical manipulation later on. And I do wish that more musicians would kind of realize that this computer-generated composition, let's call it that, this is not a command. You're not being told this is what you have to do. This is a starting point for your own manipulation and artistry, just in the same way that we all manipulated and edited drum kits. Well, we do now, but when it started sort of 20 years ago. There's a fascinating book to do with artificial intelligence that I really would like to recommend to everyone. It's called, I've written it down here, Prediction Machines by AJ Gruel. I'll find a link and maybe tweet it at the end of the show. But it makes a really important point that I think musicians should bear in mind, because there's going to be loads more machine learning out there in our software from here on. But it makes the point that the artificial intelligences are useful because they're predicting what we might like, but they don't tell us what to do. In the end, it's our choice whether we use their ideas and whether we manipulate their ideas. We're not actually, as I said before, we're not being commanded to use these.
I get you. I totally get your point. It's funny though, but we don't have to deal with its ego either. We don't have to pussyfoot around and go, well, I really like what you were getting at, but if I could just suggest, you don't have to deal with that kind of the creative dilemma when there is you as a producer or someone who's working with other band members or musicians. Sometimes you have to figure out whether or not just to get them out of the room, say what needs to be said so that you can fix it. Or,
you don't have to do that,
or replace them, or whatever. This way you can avoid all of that, but you still use the computer to generate the.
That's right. And in fact, if you wanted to keep the drummers in employment, because some of them are nice people, so I'm told, what you could do as a producer is you could devise the drum part using the AI, make it to your own specifications, and then present that to the drummer and get them to play it. Do you see? So you've got
the shape.
Computer-generated composition. Yeah, precisely. Computer-generated composition, but now played by a human being. I think there's a Danish act called Skygge, or it's my Danish pronunciation is laughable, but it's Skygge, and they released an album a couple of years ago where the compositions, most of them were created by computer, but then performed by humans. It's an absolutely fascinating album to listen to. It sounds quite peculiar, but in a really interesting way. And I wonder whether we may see more of that kind of thing as the robots take over.
It's quite possible.
I was going to add in that you can do you don't have to do the very British thing anymore of telling someone their idea is very brave. You can, but I think that it. So one of the students I was dealing with one of the students I was teaching earlier today. I'm teaching a music for film class, and he is struggling because he just can't come up with an idea for this piece that he has to do for the assignment. And I said, what you really need is you need a kernel of an idea. And, so I told him to go, just play, don't even try to do anything good. Just play lots of stuff and then you'll find something in there. But this to me is like it's like a kernel generator. Yeah. And, you're not going to go, okay, like you said, Steve, it's not going to be like, the computer spits this out and you go, okay, now I've got to work with this. It'll spit that out and you go, I don't like that. It'll spit out something else. And maybe 3 or 4 tries in, you go, oh, I hear something in here. I can manipulate a little bit better.
Something that fires you off. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree.
That's all you need.
Because quite often it's like the blank piece of paper syndrome, isn't it? You're just there and you just go, this isn't inspiring at all. But then you hear something and it just fires a synapse and you go, okay, I'm hearing something. Right. Okay. Let me have a go. And maybe, I'd be interested to see what this is like when you map it up with a load of controllers, because you can, once you get a feel for the complexities and whatnot, then you might end up with something that's really, that becomes quite performative in its own right. Yeah.
And it will be something that is one of the great things about it too, is that you can do something that is completely unique. That it's not like you're going to hear this pattern, someone else using this pattern. It will be something quite unique, because even statistically speaking, what is it? If you have on the density, say for instance, if it's 100 to 127 different levels of density over 4 different knobs or actually technically over sort of 8 knobs. God, I can't even. I mean, I'm terrible at maths, but what is that? 100?
It's a lot. Well, that's your
That's
kind of.
loads.
Oh, they've got
Yeah.
they've got a virtual version. I can play it.
Yeah, it's great. And the different maps are fantastic too.
The one thing that would be kind of useful for one thing that would be kind of useful for DJs as well, which maybe will be a few years down the line, would be to take a facility like this, but add the ability to analyze incoming music and then determine what would fit with that music, if you know what I mean. So you could then you could play like a regular, let's say like a tech house tune, where rhythmically it tends to be quite straightforward, but there'll be nuances within it that if you're mixing two
And have it
tunes together,
analyze
you
and
can-
respond. You mean? You're right.
Yes, precisely that. So you
That's
can
great.
mix out of one tune into, let's say, BeatMap, do your own thing, and then mix from that into another tune that has been sort of tagged in some way, that, and so you would know would fit with what BeatMap has generated for you. That could be an
wow, okay.
extraordinary thing, and it would take DJing into a completely new place.
That's an interesting idea.
Wow, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I would. I could picture uses for that just in the studio alone. That'd be fantastic. Also, I put together a lot of mixtapes that, or they're not tapes, obviously, but of music that I play before concerts that I'm mixing. With a few helpings of my own music, of course.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I like to get the Shazam hits. But it's something like that. It makes it much easier to mix between a lot of tracks. I kind of love that. That's a great idea, man. That is a great idea.
You said something there that's just piqued my interest, which is, you play some of your stuff before gigs. I mean, obviously, there's going to be X thousand of people in that room. And you said about Shazam hits. I mean, do you get feedback for that? Do you know if people have Shazammed your tunes? Is there a way to get that? Or are you just, is that just figure of speech?
Well, it's sort of figure of speech, but the thing is, whenever I do that, I notice that on like Bandcamp, my album sales go up. So it's like after every big show I do, and I always will play my own music before a show because it's up to me. So yeah, why not? A little shameless self promotion.
You want to go careful there, because someone will probably monetize it and actually charge you for the rights to be able to play your tunes before a show. But yeah,
probably so. Yeah.
Do you, Charles? Do you fill in a form for the PRS as well? Do you do that?
I don't do that. The tour manager takes care of all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, my stuff is all PRS. So
yeah, I'm just wondering whether there may be another income stream there for you.
Oh, that's a
just
good
have a word
idea.
with the tour manager.
I think you may be onto something. I need to have. I believe in the idea of having multiple revenue streams.
Yeah,
That's
we
one
all
of the
have
best
to do
ways to
that.
survive in the music industry.
Just to survive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well,
That's a good
that's an interesting thing to end on. We've actually got to 5 o'clock. I don't know if anybody wanted to check out the Alive in VR thing, or whether you're busy. Do you have time for that, or do you need to get off just before we?
What time is it?
It's 5 to 5.
5 to 5.
Nearly time
I'm
for
probably okay,
breakfast.
but remember, we do need to come up with a good show title.
We do. Well, I was. The show title was kind of heading towards about hurting AI feelings somehow. So at the moment, it's don't hurt the AI's feelings, but the AI drummers. I don't know, something along those lines. Something to do with AI drummers and hurting their feelings. Kind of idea for a title. So maybe we could leave that for the chat room.
There you go.
Maybe we can leave that to the. So we'll save that for next week, because who knows? I mean, the other downside of this whole world situation is people are not releasing an awful lot of stuff. So news is thinner on the ground. So perhaps we'll save some of that till next week. We'll leave it in the bank, as it were, because I think it's quite an interesting
thing. It's time to make music, and we should spend all of our time inside making music right now.
Yeah,
while we can.
And watching Sonicstate videos, obviously. But
yes, absolutely.
In between.
That's a given. That's a given, though.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, chaps. I think we'll probably wrap it up here. That was obviously Sonic Talk 610. So yes, another magic number. I don't know what
Ominous
six.
number. That's a good number.
610 seems like it
It's
should have
a-
some relevance. Was
it
there an
does.
eventide device? Was there a harmonizer?
There's a
910.
the UA610.
Preamp.
Yeah, preamp, which
there
I
we
have one right there.
Right, there we go.
So,
we'll name it after
Too bad
yeah.
you can't do a show. You can't do a show of V72, because if you could, I'd be really happy, because I got a V72 right next to it.
Okay. We missed our chance. I don't think you were there at show 72.
No.
But our paths hadn't crossed by that time. But thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Steve, thank you for dialing in. It looks like your 4G's held up, so a nice switch over there. Very seamless.
Yeah, it's pretty good here. It's on the top of the supermarket, which is just over the back. That's not interesting at all. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but it is working. So there we
Yeah,
go.
excellent. Well, thank you, Steve. And I hope you've got a good week lined up and lots of productive things and whatnot. So, yes, much appreciated. And
Cheers.
good luck with the launch of your website. If it is indeed next week, do
Yes.
tell us. I mean, do send
Yes,
us
I definitely will.
drop us a line and we'll put something in the news about it, of course. And also, Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, thank you for joining us too. I know you've been busy today. And how's your material going? Aren't you writing a new album? Did I hear that?
I am. I've got a lot of songs already, and I'm taking a break to do the sample library stuff until Friday, and then I'm going to pick back up on it again. But I should have something coming out hopefully by mid-May.
Right.
Hopefully.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome.
Pushing ahead. It'll be the chickieandcoco.com thing. So
Excellent.
there's
Well, once again,
another shameless self-plug there.
Well, that's entirely reasonable to assume. Obviously, no money changes hands, but there's no. You're perfectly welcome to promote your product and what have you. So thank you, everybody. We'll just say that's the end of the show. Thank you very much for watching. That was Sonic Talk episode 610. We'll see you all next week, hopefully. And while you're out there, stay safe and healthy and all of those things. And we will see you next time.
Wash your hands.
Thanks for watching. Yeah, wash your hands. Don't forget that. See you later, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye now.